A short time ago in a galaxy nearby, a podcast was made to inspire and entertain. Casual Space. Making space available, one story at a time. Your host with grace, Beth Mund.
Welcome back, John. Nice to see you.
This is great, Beth. Great to see you too.
Cheers to you and your accomplishments. Cheers. I'm so proud you graduated recently.
I did. So we graduated last Monday.
Congrats.
In Baltimore. Had the whole family there, which was hilarious because, so we've got the 3 kids, which are always a hassle in the airports. We flew down. But not only that, my mom flew down and my dad flew down and they traveled together, except they've been divorced for 20 years. And so having them carpooling everywhere together was absolutely hilarious. And then trying to explain when we checked into the hotel in Baltimore, I'm like, hey, have my parents checked in yet? I'm like, she's like, no, I don't think so, sir. I'm like, well, you'll know.
No, that's hilarious.
They're divorced. They'll be quite awkward. It'll be great.
Oh my gosh. But did it all go well? Everyone just got along.
Amazing. Yeah, the weather was beautiful. And just to back up a minute, so I applied for the Master's in Space Systems Engineering at Johns Hopkins without an undergraduate degree in engineering. And for some reason, they let me in. And, and the rest is history. So I graduated on Monday, and it was really quite fantastic.
Well, that's so great to hear because all the time, every time there's a guest on and there's someone listening who's like, wait, that's a path you can choose, or wait, you can, put in an application and be so bold and see where it lands. Yes. So this is so good to hear. So your master's was in, again?
Yeah, so it was Space Systems Engineering. And
wow.
The story there is the way I found out about it. If I'm remembering correctly, I was reading a book by Chris Hadfield. And in the book, one of the characters went to Johns Hopkins and took whatever
which
degree.
Book? Wait, which book? Hail Mary?
It was one of his fiction ones. So this is Chris Hadfield. I think it was The Apollo Murders.
The Apollo Murders? That was so good. I know. Yep, that's a good one.
It was that one. Maybe the sequel, The Defector. It was in one of the books. And one of the characters went to Johns Hopkins and got this engineering degree in space systems. I'm like, there's no way that's real. And I Googled it and it was real. And I realized that by, getting a degree in astrophysics, I already met all the requirements. And so I applied and they let me in and somehow managed to make it through.
Okay, so let's sit down. I need to just unpack this with you because we have so much fun that we can talk like this. And I appreciate that so greatly. You read a book and you're like, I'm going to do this. You have to kind of walk us through a little bit more and bridge the gap, because I've read books that, the women are presidents of the United States and do the things. And I haven't, pursued that yet. So at what point did you sit down and close the book and look at your wife and be like, guess what's next?
Well, here's the thing. I don't read books as much as I study books. And I think there's a difference there. And so one of my friends gave me a business book that he wrote, and it's taking me 3 months to get through it. And he's probably going to be like, what the heck? You got to write a review. I'm waiting for this. You're an author. I'm an author. Help me out. But what's happening is I'm reading, it's a very good book. It's called Just Evil Enough. It's about marketing.
Ooh, I think I've heard of this.
Yeah. And so
do you read it like this?
Just Evil Enough. And so I'll read a chapter, but then I'll realize that there's something I can apply in my life. I'll close the book and I'll take notes on the action steps that I need to take to make what I'm reading relevant in my life.
Wow.
And so that's sort of how I read books. And most of the time I'm reading a book and I'll be like, wow, here's an idea where I can make a YouTube video about and help a lot of people, for example. Or I'm reading one, here's a way that I can have my readers get involved in the writing process of my book. And so those are 2 recent examples just from reading Just Evil Enough, how I can apply it to my everyday life.
Wow.
And so, but the same thing applies to fiction books too. And as was the case with Chris Hadfield's The Apollo Murders.
So you're very selective. I like this. And this almost sheds a little light on how you are as a learner. Like some people can read a book, put it down, move on in life. And some of us, like I as well, if I'm going to invest that time, I am very selective on what I'm going to read. I'm very purposeful. Usually I'm reading books from our guests on the show, your books, Cyenne's books, people, and of course, Chris Hadfield when he writes a good one. And I so rarely step into fiction. So it's really got to be worth my time. And because I'm taking notes for, the guest and to have the conversation and be well prepared, there's not a lot of time for me to apply. I kind of unpack that on the show together with the conversation. But every now and then something will spark. And there's been a couple books this year that have blown me away. We'll talk about those in a minute because I really want to get to like, okay, you read this, you marked it. There was something about this character and the journey he was on and the degree he got that made you say,
Yeah, it made me say, I wonder if this is real. Like, is this based on a real character? Fictional book. And I just immediately like I think closed the book, went to the computer. It's real. Is
it
this
was
something I would
real.
like to do? Yes. Because as much as I like astronomy, because my background, my last degree before this was in astrophysics, and I do astronomy outreach for the public, and we'll probably go into my origin story in a minute anyway, for those that don't know me. But what I really like is what's the frontier of the human condition in space? Like, what is the frontier of science? And I found that the spacecraft, like your space telescopes and your exploratory spacecraft, like Mars rovers and Mercury landers, which didn't end up existing, and that sort of stuff, that's the frontier for me, or what I believe is the frontier of the human condition. And I wanted to reach that frontier. What's it like to operate at the frontier of science in that way, like actually going and physically touching these planets with your robots, let's say,
Sure,
or
sure.
you know,
Oh, goodness. Okay, so
yeah.
but your college, this institution, this wonderful institution, my college roommate went there actually. It's a beautiful campus. Were you there a little bit? Were you there sometimes remote, a couple times a semester? Tell me how that worked for
Yeah, so
you.
it worked out to once a year.
Great.
So I was there near the beginning of the program for some orientation, something. And then they have what's called Connect to Campus. So they have events where you actually meet in person, and you can go in person if you want to. Like it's very hybrid. So the classes, you're a full Johns Hopkins student. So and like my
Nice.
key works on every door. It's pretty, it's not like because I did this remote that they care that I'm remote. And a lot of people
Nice.
mix it up. They'll come in and they'll do classes live. And so, but yeah, campus is beautiful. The main reason you go to campus in the engineering program is to do your capstone, whatever that looks like for you. So for me, it was an integration and test plan of a physical satellite. And so they had these test satellites. We came into campus and you come in with your integration and test plan. You have the satellite, you take it apart, and then you put it back together again. The whole time you're following this plan that you've written ahead of time to see if that satellite qualifies for flight.
Oh,
Is it flight?
wow.
And so at the end, you've got a satellite that functions, or at least is supposed to function. And if it doesn't, you document why it doesn't.
I
And so
see.
that was our big capstone. Other people in our class were doing laser communication, which is now huge in space. It wasn't at the time. This was 2 years ago or so. But now we know that like Starlink is communicating with a web they call it optical communication, you know, to give us
Yeah.
super fast, high reliable internet. And so that's using satellites communicating with lasers in space. So some of the students were working on projects like that, and they had to physically come on campus to use the hardware.
It must be challenging to, in those 2 years, when the technology is changing and upgrading and moving so quickly, just getting your degree and understanding the systems as it's changing. John, I remember when you and it was my first time ever seeing them, but we were out at the dome in
At
Arizona for the
Biosphere
air.
too, yeah.
Yes, at the Bio Research Center and for the Analog Astronaut Conference. And that's where I saw Starlink go overhead for the first time after like just minutes after they had launched. And they were in that first orbit where you could really catch them. And it was surreal. But you know
It-
all about that now
yeah, I
and
have a
building your own
recording of that
satellite.
moment.
You
I have a
do? You
recording of that
got to
moment.
send
And
it.
you could probably hear you screaming with joy and bliss in the background because all the engineers and everyone that was there were freaking out. Because again, this was early Starlink. This was 4 or 5 years ago. And
Yeah. Yeah.
most, I would say about half the people, because not everyone's a space expert that works on spacecraft there. They didn't know what they were at all. And so you
Yeah.
had the engineers who were excited, and then you had other people who were like, what the heck is going on? And you had to have other people explain it to them. It's Starlink. And
And then
so
you had
everyone's,
Beth Munn just going, wow, wow,
yeah,
wow,
exactly.
as I
Yeah,
do. But
as you
I
do.
say that about you as well. I mean, John, the things you do, you work with the public all the time, you help educate, you help Cyan publish her poems and her books and other authors as well. So, oh my goodness, you have 3 kids, you have a master's, you have another degree, you have another, yeah, there's the book. It's gorgeous. And for those of you listening in your car, otherwise, if you haven't seen the beautiful publications that John and his family work to produce, one of them is Cyan's collection of space poetry.
Yeah.
Is that the one that was in 3D or it comes off the page? Was that?
So that is Space to Inspire, Art of Inspiration. So that was the one she
Okay.
wrote as soon as she got back from space.
Okay.
So that one was really cool because her most famous piece of artwork named Seeker, the one that piece of art that went to the Marianas Trench, went to space, I think it went to Everest, the most well-traveled painting in the world by a huge margin. So that painting was animated, and that sort of spawned
Excellent.
this augmented reality book. So she had the animation along with some music, and then her reading this poem. And she found a company where if you looked at the book through either smart glasses or your smartphone, that the pages would come alive
So cool.
in augmented
That's
reality.
so great.
So we ended up doing one for every page in the entire book.
So great.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so last we spoke, and we're catching up together too as colleagues and friends here, and for everyone to enjoy. In addition to your degree, weren't you on the path to build something extraordinary in your neck of the woods?
Yeah, so this goes back to one of those comets from 2 or 3 years ago. I forget it was Neowise or whatever. So everyone was
Yeah.
going out and trying to find this comet. And I realized that there was no place within 40 minutes of my home where the city hadn't placed a streetlight.
Mm.
Even the parks, they all had a streetlight. So no matter where you went, there was no way to see a comet. And that made me really sad. So I started looking at these light pollution maps of where the light pollution is the least. And I realized that there was a 26-acre plot of land on a lake away from everything near a nature preserve where it was the darkest in the entire metropolitan area, you know? And there was a plot of land for sale, and I immediately called my real estate agent, and within 4 weeks, we had closed on that deal. And unfortunately, after we bought it, I was working at the Abbey Ridge Observatory at the time, an
Yeah.
observatory at our local university. And the director of that observatory was passing away.
Oh, gosh.
And so, as he was sort of getting ready to go into hospice, the estate reached out to me and asked if I would take over another telescope that he ran that was on his property. That was the sister scope of the one at St. Mary's University.
Okay.
And so after he passed, the observatory passed into our name, and we spent all of last summer, well, me and Liam, who's an intern that I believe we shared,
Yeah,
we
you bet.
relocated using transport trucks and cranes and tractors and excavators. We relocated the entire observatory, built a new building, and moved the dome over to this plot of land that we bought. So
Oh,
we
wow.
named the plot of land Stargaze Nova Scotia because we're in Nova Scotia, and it's for stargazing. And the Abbey Ridge Observatory kept its name. So it is now Abbey Ridge Observatory. And we're starting to form a board of
Fantastic.
directors to handle all the public outreach surrounding the observatory, which would be called Aurora or Abbey Ridge Observatory Association.
Wow.
And so hopefully then we can break into, observatory tours, public events, and that sort of thing. So really excited about both Stargaze Nova Scotia. Now the public, as soon as our development agreement is approved, the public will have a place to go and experience dark skies within city limits. And we will have the Abbey Ridge Observatory. So they'll have a giant telescope that is robotic and it can project the colorful images onto a big monitor in real time. And just a really exciting experience for those interested in astronomy and space exploration.
This is so great. Remind me again when you sleep.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the reason I need to form a board of directors so we can start hiring telescope operators so that I don't actually have to be there at night.
Oh my
So, yeah,
gosh.
super
And the
important.
kiddos and the things. Well, I'm glad. I'm so sorry to hear about, I'm sure what was a incredible colleague for you, moving it to be near you and for the people there in that area, because let's review, it's a beautiful dark sky area. There's minimal opportunities, and that's changing now. And as we know, there's even some commercial launch entities that are coming into Nova Scotia. So this is really becoming quite the place for space.
Yeah, absolutely. So Nova Scotia is known for Galaxia Mission Systems, which is a satellite manufacturer and AI space computing company. And
Oh,
so, real exciting stuff happening here in the field of space AI. And that's
oh,
where the processing actually happens off the surface of the Earth, and it's only sending down the most important bits of information. So, we don't need to do a lot of analytics after the information gets down to the ground. And so
nice.
that's a major thing that happens here. And then also the Canso spaceport being built by Maritime Launch. So that would give Canada launch capabilities specifically for those sun synchronous orbits that are really great for Earth observation, studying climate change, and all those things that we in Canada care so much about. So, yeah.
Very cool. I can't wait. As a matter of fact, I think we have a launch that's coming up this year in the later half of the year, and we'll keep everyone informed about that and stories of space with our partnership with Maritime Launch. So, John, I'll finally get to see you in your neck of the woods later this year. We usually see each other in the southern west part of the United States, but now I get to come to you. Okay, so after the degree and with all the moving and everything coming up next, are you, are you still able to have that enjoyable, inspirational, like one-on-one time with the public when they first look at that image through the telescope and you get to explain it and walk them through that? Is that something you're still doing?
I'd have to say it's been a while, but I feel like my phone's been off the hook recently with people asking me to come out and share my experience. So I'm not sure if you know Kevin DeBrune, and so he was a JPL guy. He is now running
Okay.
a space camp. So I'm just getting
Oh,
uh,
really?
invitation space camp in Los Angeles in July. And so I believe it's with the school board. And so I will be coming down there and helping him for a week. I think Cyanna's coming
Wow.
down and Nicole Stott will be there as well, at least according to Kevin. And
Oh my
so
gosh.
we will be doing stargazing at night and then teaching these kids about, well, I'll be teaching the kids about astronomy during the day. The astronauts will be teaching the kids about what it's like to be an astronaut. But at night, we get to look through the telescope. So that's going to
Wow.
be a whole lot of fun.
Oh my gosh. So that's just for a week or so in June or?
That's a week. That's for me. That's the second week in July. Yeah.
Oh, great. Okay,
So that's
great.
looking forward to
Wow,
that.
space camp in
Space
LA.
camp
Wow.
in LA. Yeah. Again,
Oh my
not the
gosh.
official space camp, Alabama or wherever you guys are based out of, but it's important that school boards are putting this stuff on and getting kids excited about space.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so while we have you on Casual Space and all your expertise, and I can't believe you even have time for us, I'm so grateful. I'm really appreciative. There is over the summer a lot more people, I think, really excited about celestial events because they're paying attention. They're looking at what's happening in the news, how we're ramping up for Artemis missions, how, Starlink continues to launch the recent one, the Starship that just did its ninth test flight. And John, I don't know, this is going to be quite funny. At the end, when it started to tumble, there was some background music on. So what happened in my brain, let me know if you got there as well, there was tumbling going on with a camera, like showing this live downlink of the entire rocket just kind of one going over each other with lighting against a black background and this music. And I'm like, am I discotheque or am I watching a SpaceX
I
Starship
know, because it
launch?
was sort of in a plume of its own, like gas that was like pink for some reason. And because I think it was on the whole time, we couldn't really see it on camera. I think like it was on fire and it was leaking. Like that's what initiated a spin. So there's some pressure tank was
Doosh,
leaking, and
doosh, 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 doosh.
yeah, and I don't know. I didn't hear the music because I was watching it. I stopped to read my kids goodnight. We're reading the Bobaverse. You can't not read your kids the Bobaverse if
Oh,
anyone's familiar with that
cute.
series. Sort of like a sequel to Project Hail Mary.
Oh, we're
But
gonna have to check that out.
yeah, Bobaverse is great. I'll have to put that in the show notes. Uh,
Absolutely.
so I'm reading the kids Bobaverse, and we pause it between liftoff and and I wanted to watch the landing, and I turn it on, and we go and hit double speed. So the YouTube is playing at double speed, and now the spacecraft is. I'm like, whoa! How is it
What's
not
this?
flying to pieces? Oh, it's at double speed. Uh, but yeah,
Yeah, we're
just
too young for the 70s disco. We weren't old enough for the 80s clubs. So it's
yeah,
like we're
that's what
not
we get.
experienced. But when I heard that in the combination, and I watched it on the replay as well, and I'm like, because I wanted to see where things were kind of going wrong. But honest to goodness, John, every time I watch one of these launches, I just get more impressed. And you would think by now we're like, it's habitual. You see what you see, you know the routine. This is the nope. Every time I'm like, I'm looking at the launch facility in Boca Chica, and is that right? Is that where it's at?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
And
Boca
then
Chica,
I'm like,
Texas.
I remember the first time that it blew off concrete parts of the launch facility. And now you can see all those other Starship like lined up, like parts ready to go to be assembled. You can see the facility has grown.
Yeah,
So every time I tune in, I'm seeing lots of new details. And then, of course, the
absolutely.
coverage, they no longer have to say like necessarily like rapid. Um, they did
Run.
say, what did they say that was so funny? And my daughter looked at me and she said, "What was that?" Something with a D, where they said, oh gosh, it had not terminated. They didn't say that, but something with a D. And I said, "What did they just say?" Oh, I was going to come to me as we talk, but it was like typical creative SpaceX speak. And I'm like, that's a new term
Yeah.
I have to use. And of course,
Yeah,
now I
because
forgot it.
RUD was rapid
Embarrassed.
unscheduled disassembly,
Yeah.
which is their
Thank
typical
you.
one.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, it was interesting going back to that first launch, which was insane. Like we didn't
Yeah.
think we thought it was going to blow up on the pad. We're like, there is no way. And so it takes off, it clears the pad, everyone freaks out. And then, we had our friend Mary Liz there, who was at the conference that you and I
Yeah.
went to,
Yeah.
and then Tim Dodd. And so they're out there and they're like, woo, woo, woo. And then they're like, ow, 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 get inside. Because they were
Oh,
getting pelted
really?
with pieces of the launch pad. And if you don't remember, at lunch at this conference, Mary Liz was opening her purse because that pieces of the launch pad got into everything. And so her purse was like full of little rocks, little bits of
Gosh.
concrete. Yeah.
No, I
And so she
didn't
was
know
showing it
that.
off because
Oh
she's
my
like, I'm never
gosh.
cleaning my purse again.
I
Because
wouldn't. I wouldn't.
it's full of SpaceX launch pad. Yeah.
Wow. So much. See, much like your degree journey and SpaceX, like things are happening so quickly. And, I wish I was a little bit younger because there was this like gap. There was this huge, long gap where NASA's like, you're the future astronauts. Your generation is going to go to the moon. And we were kind of like, okay, when? Okay, but when? And the technology just wasn't there. And,
Yeah.
now you're looking around and you're like, okay, shuttle obviously has retired and we have these alternate sources to get back and forth to finish the ISS and then eventually maintain it and help go back and forth. And now we're going faster and further, and our commercial flights and commercial builds, everything is happening the way I think we were hoping it would have many 20 years ago. But now it seems like it's gone from like, if it were a chart, like just kind of flatlining gradually up hockey stick to like off the charts, can't
Yeah.
even.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And
what,
that's a little
when you
bit of
got,
a
go ahead.
hack as well. So I was reading When the Heavens Went on Sale. You ever read this book? There's
No.
one for that comment. When the Heavens Went on Sale, and it's telling the story of Planet Lab, SpaceX, Astra, Rocket Lab, and the other one with the Ukrainian guy, Firefly. And
Oh,
so it
yeah.
tells the story of those companies. And my takeaway in reading those books is that, oh my gosh, this is almost insider information. And so, because we know that some of these companies are going to grow, not like this, but
Yeah.
like this,
Right.
exponentially. And so, what
Quickly.
I was, immediately what I did, because remember my background, and we can go into this, is finance before astrophysics. And so I went and I just, okay, well, I can buy a share in Astra. Well, that didn't work out. Astra went bankrupt, or at least went off the market. But Rocket Lab, as so this is a year I buy the stock and it immediately starts growing exponentially as these companies do. Because you assume as an investor that your investments are going to make 10% or whatever on average. But that's not how things work. At an individual level, companies like that, they grow exponentially, like Tesla, like 80,000%. Solar City, same thing, before it got absorbed. And so, I'm reading When the Heavens Went on Sale, and then at the same time making business decisions, with my personal finances related to what I'm
Yeah.
reading. Going back to that, it's
Oh my
just kind of
gosh.
another benefit of reading these space books, I guess.
Absolutely. And John, we need to talk then because I clearly need to perhaps consider selling my Boeing shares.
Your Boeing,
Maybe.
yeah, Boeing shares, a little rough.
I mean,
Uh,
I've held on to those for years and years, like way back when I was at NASA. I'm like, I'm investing in Boeing. And now, maybe need to relook at that. But yeah, it is hard to say, what do you put the investment in? Where do you know what's what? Things are moving so quickly that so many companies have merged, evolved, acquired each other, and just keep going on and on. I used to, for the Final Four, do a space Final Four where I was like, okay, let's count down like the Sweet 16 down to the top four, top two. And I would always pick one for fun. I can't even do that anymore. There's too many
there's too many.
companies,
Yeah.
so many. So how do you find with your financial background like what's appealing to you about investing? Is it just about the money and how that you're going to watch them grow, or is it about what they're producing and creating, or like building your personal wealth? How do
Yeah,
you
I
do
mean,
that?
going back to personal finance, I mean, my background officially was corporate finance. So in a personal finance,
Ah,
it's really just for fun.
okay.
So, if there's opportunities that present themselves, like it's just sort of fun. And from a being responsible with your personal finances, like, yeah, just dollar cost averaging, index funds, whatever, the stuff that you read about and that your financial advisor should handle for you. But it's always fun if you see an opportunity. And so when I was at Clorox, which is where I worked before I quit my job
Okay.
and went back to school and to do astronomy, I would get headhunted all the time. And so the first company that ever headhunted me was Tesla. And this was like before they made cars. And
Really?
so, yeah, this is way early. This is like 2009 or something. And so I'm like, cool, this company, if they're looking for people like me, must be growing. And so I'm like, well, maybe I'll buy $500 worth of their stock. And then I think the next year I got headhunted by a company called Amazon. And at the time they were making books. And I'm like, they must know what they're doing. I'll take $500 and put it in Amazon. And then there was Apple, and I interviewed at Apple, and I'm like, wow, this seems like a terrible place to work. Sorry, Scott Manley. And but anyway, but I'm like, well, they called me. I better follow my rule. And so um, you know, that's I didn't make millions or anything because I was
Yeah.
responsible and diversified. But it was a kind of a funny strategy. I don't
Love
really
that story.
recommend it, but it worked out for me for a while anyway. I get to put it this way, I do YouTube for a living basically, right? So
You
there you go.
obviously felt like after the interview, you were like, well, they are looking for something unique to invest in, and people like me who want to bring something to the table. And so let's take a look at this company and maybe put my own investment in them. So, oh gosh, John, you had all these opportunities. So, space is what pulled you into your future, and you have doubled down on your investment with your degrees and your time, and now purchasing the land for an observatory. So, why
Yeah.
space?
So, well, to back up, so I didn't know about space as an industry. I didn't know about astronomy as a field until I was 27 years old. And I had bought a $13 telescope at the pharmacy because my wife went in to get chapstick, whatever, and got a coupon. I'm like, oh, it's a telescope for 15 bucks. That's funny. And so I took the telescope home and I pointed it at the first thing I saw in the sky, this bright yellow star. And keep in mind, I'm like in San Francisco, the Bay Area, and I'm near the BART tracks. And there's like a train going by. We're at one of the stations. I'm in the parking lot. And I look through the telescope and I twist the knobs to get it in focus. And it was like, boom, there was Saturn, high definition. And I was like, no way, no way. CVS telescope. And I just saw Saturn. This is nuts. And so I immediately went, I got a nicer telescope, a 60 millimeter telescope, which is still insanely small, like this big, but fit in your pocket small almost. But that got me hooked. I was seeing my first deep sky objects. And then for Christmas that year, we ended up getting a big telescope, one that I could use to volunteer with the local astronomy club, teaching other people how to use telescopes. And then I was like, wow, I really love this. And so, but I had an issue, and other people were having the issue, is that they'd go out with their telescope and they didn't know what to point it at.
Oh,
And
sure.
so I put together a PDF called 50 Things to See with a Small Telescope. And then I self-published it on like some thing called Lulu. I don't even know what it is anymore. Um, Lulu Press. And then someone was like, or I read online, oh, you can publish on Amazon. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And I literally just uploaded the PDF to Amazon. And it sold maybe like 400 copies that Christmas. I'm like, wow, I just helped 400 people. This is amazing. And then so I formatted the book a lot nicer, and we re-uploaded it on Amazon, made the cover a little bit nicer. That next Christmas, I knew everything had changed.
Yeah.
Because, well, one, it went off the market for like a week, and I was like, what's going on here? I realized they were building up inventory because Amazon's algorithm was telling them that this book was going to sell huge. And then one day I got I sold 5 figures worth of books in a day. And
In
I
a
was like,
day.
in a day. Most of that, like they're building up inventory. So probably getting like the equivalent of an advance, right? And I knew that everything had changed. Like that was it. Like I could grow 10x again and then quit my job and just do astronomy full time.
Oh, wow.
And so the rest is history. So that's what I did. 3 or 4 months later, I turned in my resignation. I applied to St. Mary's University because which was in Canada. And the reason I didn't do it in the States is one, it's expensive with health insurance. There's no health insurance in Canada. So if I go to a Canadian school, and because I've got a family of 4, and our kids had just been born, so she's taking care of the kids.
Yeah.
And we moved to Canada, back to where I was born. So we all have dual citizenship, which was very fortunate. And then we wrote a second book. Now the second book, complete flop. Things to See with a mid-sized telescope. Nobody bought it. I was traumatized. But my wife goes and says, what if you did the same book, but did it for kids? And so we came out with this book, 50 Things to See with a Telescope for Kids.
Love that one.
And this book just sold like gangbusters.
That's actually my favorite because I'm the kid at heart that wants the stories and the pictures and the photos. That's how I relate to the night sky, John. So that's like, and I tell everyone, like, don't just think it's a kid's book because if anyone is going out, especially at night, it's easy. You can share it, all ages. You don't have to just think kids, but kids love it too. So
Exactly.
It's a perfect book.
Yeah, the kids will just sit down and read it. And the idea is that, it's organized by season. So you just open up to any page within that season. And it shows you the brightest thing in the sky that is the easiest to see. And so I think that's why it was so popular. Like it just simplified it down to the absolute minimum amount of knowledge that you need to do to see cool stuff in space. And I think that's why the books were successful. And now it's been almost 10 years. It's my 10th year of
No way.
just being an astronomy creator, communicator guy. And it's been a wonderful, wonderful journey. And now that I have some time on my hands from not being a full-time master's student, it's time to grow the business more and get some new books. We've got lots of new books in the pipeline.
Oh, good.
I
Oh,
believe I've just hired a full-time publishing assistant, and so hopefully that'll help a lot.
oh, fantastic.
And then getting back to making some exciting YouTube videos with some astronomy adventures that people can enjoy. I've learned to
Oh,
stargaze on YouTube. So
yes. Which all of these, as always, we'll put in the show. Everyone, I think, on Casual Space knows you, and we're always happy to have you. I have to ask you, do you still have those telescopes? The first originals that you
no, so hilariously, I gave them away at White Elephant gift events
did
at work.
you?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
And what did they say when they were like, oh, a
No,
telescope?
yeah, people loved it. Well, so I actually there was the $13 one, but then you get more coupons, right? So there's more of the story than my Amazon biography. And so we were able to super coupon, and then we were buying more of these $13 ones, but for like $5, and then the next one was 50 cents, just as a bit of a gag. So I really had three of these things, back before I knew anything about astronomy, just because I thought it was funny. I never
Oh my
knew
gosh.
that it would that I would sell hundreds of thousands of books on that topic, but
Somewhere. Someone's
seems
got your
like just how it
special
turned out.
first telescope somewhere. It'll be in a
Yeah,
museum someday.
somebody's got it. Yeah. Yep.
I
Someone
love
probably
it.
in South Carolina, because that was where my friends
That's
were
where.
at the time. Yeah.
Oh, I see. I see. Oh my gosh. So this love of helping others and publishing the books and looking through the night sky. Talk us through, if you don't mind, about how the equipment, just like your degree and all the space entities now, that has changed so drastically as well. Like
Oh my
people are
gosh.
going to want to
Yes.
capture your books and hear from you and definitely watch your YouTube series because you help us, the everyday Janes and Joes to be able to maneuver through using a telescope. And these days, it's almost ridiculously impressively easy.
Yeah. So I think there's two directions that stargazing is going. So there's a big difference between stargazing, which is going out with zero stress and enjoying the night sky, and then astrophotography, which is
Ah,
like
yes.
messing with complicated gear. Now, they're going in two different directions. On the stargazing side, I think people are really getting into events, which is a beautiful
Yes.
thing. So that's where you don't need any equipment at all. So that's going and finding dark skies where you can just see the Milky Way, with your eyes. Uh, Keeping an eye on when the meteor showers are, going and seeing the Perseids there in August, going and out in the cold in December and seeing the Geminids. Like people have forgotten just how impressive those meteor showers are. No equipment required. Then there's going out with just binoculars. Like you don't need a telescope to be impressed. So, but again, you do need those dark skies. But after you've got the dark skies, if you know where to look, there's absolutely mind-blowing things in the sky that you can see. For example, the Andromeda Galaxy, the Alpha Persei cluster, even the Pleiades, which you can see without a telescope, but you add binoculars, amazing. And so that's one end. On the telescope side, there's what's called EAA, electronically assisted astronomy. And that's
Love it.
halfway point between the just going out with your toy telescope and getting $3,000 in astrophotography gear. Because before maybe 2023, you needed like $3,000 worth of gear to get a good photo of a nebula. That's just what it took. You could try, but you would fail without sort of all this fancy stuff. Now, for $350, you can get a telescope called a Sea-Star made in China. You just sit it down, it opens up, it tracks the sky, and it takes hundreds of pictures over like a 3-hour period, does a mosaic, and then boom, you've got your epic photo of a giant nebula like the Lagoon Nebula or a galaxy like the Andromeda Galaxy, whatever you want, on a budget of $350 instead of $3,000. And so that's been a major shift in amateur astronomy within the last 2 years.
So great. And people from all places can use this equipment. You don't have to necessarily be in a dark sky area, correct?
That's correct. The smart telescopes, I found they work just as good from the city, and you can barely tell the difference. They
Wow.
have light pollution filters that are built in, like somewhere in the mechanism, a little filter clicks in front of the sensor, and then
Wow.
it filters out the light that would otherwise hinder your ability to see stuff. Yeah.
So I am one of those people who will invest in the easiest, non-breakable gear and use my eyes and my binoculars and stargaze for just the enjoyment of it. I also love to be social, so I love the star parties. So for everyone listening at all levels, now that we have John joining us, what should we be looking for this summer that might be a celestial oddity or something unique or something on the schedule that we cannot miss?
Well, so the great thing about the last few years is there were so many events. We had the Great American Eclipse. We had an eclipse earlier this year. We had the lunar eclipse this year, and that people are all stoked to get out and enjoy the night sky. And now I think for this summer, it's just time to go back to the basics. You've got the Perseid meteor shower. You've got a new moon in August. You want to stargaze. If you're planning a stargazing trip, you plan it toward the end of the summer because that way the nights are longer. If you plan it in June 20th, then you have the least amount of nighttime,
Mm,
right? Depending on where you are. Like if you're in
yeah,
Chile, that's a different question. Different, it's the reverse.
sure.
That's the best time. But yeah, so late in the summer, enjoy the Perseids, and then you want to really hit all those showstopper targets. And so if you want me to go through them, you've got like
Yeah.
double star Albireo, which is the gold star and blue star that are orbiting each other. You've got the Lagoon Nebula, the Swan Nebula, also known as the Omega Nebula. You've got the big globular clusters like M22, the Great Globular Cluster in Sagittarius. You've got M13, the Great Globular Cluster in Hercules. So it's a time to get out and enjoy those sort of fan favorites that you might not have seen in quite a long time because
Oh,
you're so
nice.
busy chasing eclipses and all this stuff, right?
Well, eclipses are great because they bring us all out of our house and join, and we
Yeah.
get social, and then we light up our socials and we talk about it and we share. And I think it's a nice invitation for people who maybe otherwise haven't been in the world of astronomy or regularly looking and enjoying the sky to step into it. And then there's always, I mean, there's never a dull night in the night sky, right? There's always something
Oh,
going on.
oh my
But
gosh.
there's always something to discover. Like I am not familiar with some of these clusters and I haven't found everything. You've got some of these checklists in your books, which I love for kids and adults alike to like kind of find them, check them off. Really cool.
Yeah. And you can get rewarded for it. So if you look at most of our
What?
books, so here's like the one for adults, 110 things to see with a telescope. Okay. If you're in Canada, they want you to observe all of them. If you're in the United States, I think they give you a certificate after you observe your first 70. And so
Oh,
in the books, this is 110 things to see with a telescope. If you just open it to any page, you can see it's one target per page, and then you've got a place to record your observation. Okay, so you use this book. You say, okay, what's this? M53. So it's an open cluster in Coma Berenices. Okay, so you go, you do a little sketch of what you're seeing through your telescope. You fill out what type of telescope you're using, what time of day it is, what eyepiece. Take some notes. In terms of the notes, here's what's great. This becomes your journal. So you want to write down who's observing with you, what happened that day in your life that was exciting, what inspired you to come out that night and observe the stars. And so, very cool. So then, after you observe your 70 targets in the States or all the targets in Canada, you go to the back of the book, and the various organizations, the Astronomical League in the States or the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada, you've got your forms, your application forms. So you would fill
perfect.
out the form, you would send them a PDF of the book, and then you're going to get a certification of, you'll get a pin that looks like that a little bit.
Wow.
And yeah, and then you'll get a certification, like a degree that you can put on your wall. And that certifies that, you've observed all of the targets. And this is a very famous
Wow.
list. This is the Messier list, for example, this book. And there's other lists too that you can do this. There's one called Isabel Williamson, and that's for observing 150 targets on the surface of the moon. And there's
Oh,
finest NGCs. There's one that David Levy is a famous comet hunter put together. And again, there's certificates from both of these organizations that you can get for doing these observations and recording and writing down your observations and anything you observed in the process. So that's a
I hear
really
you.
exciting thing that
Challenge accepted.
yeah.
John wants us to work on our skills and our nighttime observing skills, I'm on it. No, that's fantastic. What a great invitation. So, wow. So we've got some things we can enjoy this summer in the night sky. Other than space camp and getting the observatory ready, do you get to take a break or a vacation or something that you're looking forward to?
I don't know. I think I've taken all my vacations. Um, it's time to get to work for me. Yeah. No, so we've got star parties are the highlight of my summer. And so one, I just got a call from the president of the Halifax Astronomy Club, Judy Black. And so she's like, "Hey, we need you. You got to be our keynote." I'm like,
Oh,
"I'm on it." And so
of
that's the
course.
Nova East Star Party. A lot of Americans drive up for that one. They drive up from New England because it's not that far. And so that's at Smiley's Provincial Park in Nova Scotia on August 20th to the 24th.
Oh,
Great star party. If you're in Nova Scotia, don't miss it. You
okay.
get free, not free camping, but you don't need to look for a spot. You get your tickets and you get a camping spot.
Oh, nice.
I think they're only like $30 plus 30 or 25 or $30 for a
That's a
t-shirt.
deal.
And that's Canadian dollars. So really that's only like 50 cents American. Uh, yeah. Um, so there's that. I don't know what's going on. I'm on Dr. Phil's morning show tomorrow morning talking about
Are you
uh,
really?
some radio signal and that they found in space, which I think is just a rotating neutron star, but you know how it is. They want you to come and talk about that stuff. So
We want
it
to get
never
excited.
ends. It
Oh
never
my
ends. There's
gosh,
always
John.
stuff to talk about in space.
Yes. Well, that's why we love having you on the show. So, again, we're going to welcome John's publications. I'm going to put links to all of his things, including his YouTube channel and everything that's coming up for him. You'll probably be seeing a lot more of him. And if you're in the area and you want to check out the observatory and all of the other things that, you have available to you at this wonderful time of year to have the time to be outside and not be freezing cold. Although some of those clear, crisp nighttime sky observations are memorable to me. I remember a couple times like stepping in and out and just being so freezing cold and stepping back in for some eclipses and a couple other things where I'm like, how
Mhm.
is anyone missing this? This is phenomenal and it only happens, a couple times in your lifetime. So be a little cold. Don't be too worried about it. So this summer, no excuses. Check out all of John's work and his website. I'll send it all in here in the show notes. John, thank you so much for joining us. This has been fantastic. I hope you get a minute to enjoy your summer as well. And we're going to look forward to seeing you everywhere. Congrats on your graduation again. I know it was a lot of work and you did great. So, what do we call you? Is it doctor? Is it second masters? Is it like
I
honorary?
think I think it's funny. People typically just call me by my Instagram handle, which I think is funny. Even Cyan's was like, hey, it's Learn to Stargaze. And then my wife goes by Mrs. Stargaze.
Well, that's
Yeah.
lovely. I
So
love
maybe
that.
maybe Mr. Stargaze
Mr.
would
Stargaze.
be the proper term. Yeah. There's no name addition for a master's degree. So
No, but it's so well deserved, John. Congrats again from all of us at Casual Space and all the listeners. And if you want to honor John with a great grad gift, let's get one of those books going, share them along, give to the kids, go have your own star party, bring that with, and track your observations so that we can all have a little homework and have, supporting John and how much work he's done. You've done the heavy lifting for us to just step outside and enjoy that night sky. So thank you.
yeah, thank you, Beth. This has been absolutely wonderful.
If you enjoyed this episode, give it some stars by rating and reviewing it on your podcast platform. Embrace the space. Casual space.